Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Aico TV. My name is Matt Powell.
And I'm Luke Allwood-Reid.
We've got an action-packed episode for you this week. Let's see what's coming up. First up, we take a look back at our UK conference, which took place last month.
Next, we take a look at our second episode of our EDA Modules.
And finally, we're joined by the charity PALZ UK.
And in our frequently asked questions, the question is, where do I fit a heat alarm?
So first up in this episode, we take a look back at our UK conference, which took place last month. This took place at Crewe Hall and involved a number of team building activities. So let's take a look at how the team got on.
Hi, we're here today in June 2022 at our UK conference at the majestic Crewe Hall. The main purpose of today is for everybody to work together, to be together and to create a great team spirit within the company.
Days like this are so important to the teams and to Aico. Teams only really work together when they trust each other. To trust each other, they have to share experiences. Today is a day about sharing experiences and enjoying themselves and getting to know each other. So this morning we had a physical challenge. So we had 6 challenges laid out where people had to communicate, play to their strengths and solve puzzles and achieve results based on working together.
These days really help us. We can reflect on what we've learnt during the day and we can put those skills into good use in the workplace.
Well, I've been at Aico for 10 years now and it's amazing just how the company's changed in that time. But the days have become much more interactive, and with the likes of these team building activities, it's a really good way of getting to know new colleagues.
So far we've performed a number of tasks. One of the main ones was a chemical rescue. So that was working as a team. A number of us were blindfolded and another 2 members of the team were shouting out instructions. And it was actually really good because it was, for myself, it was a good way to remember people's names.
So everybody in teams has had a challenge set, and we've looked at what we've learned from that and from each other, how we work together, how we listen to each other, how we interact, how people have different personalities and bring different things to the table, and how important it is to have different people in a team.
I think what's good, especially for me being new here, is I really got an idea of people's different skill sets and got to understand what it's like to work with different people in Aico, and I've really enjoyed kind of working with them together and kind of bashing our brains together to find a solution.
The most pleasing thing again is actually seeing people being with each other, just having fun, challenging each other, but at the same time having respectful relationships and so much banter and noise, total engagement and commitment.
So after lunch we decided to do some cocktail making, which was very entertaining. Putting together teams in challenging situations brings the best out in people.
I've actually learned a little bit more about myself today. So the benefit I've got is I'm quite a loud person generally, and it's taking time to listen to other people within my team and move forward and getting involved.
Well, we all kind of went out for our sort of pre-drinks before dinner, and there was some actors milling around. However, I thought they were originally just other guests at the hotel, and then all of a sudden they started sort of doing their little bit in the courtyard, and everyone started gathering around to sort of see what was going on. I've never been to a murder mystery, but so far it's quite entertaining.
Yeah, so we've got some written documents, a will, a diary and some other letters, and then the actors are coming around giving us clues as well about how we can figure out who was the culprit.
To cap the evening off, before we have the DJ and the band, we've got long service awards. We also have a number of significant birthdays during this year. And we've also got a few fun awards of things that we saw early in the day with some of the performances on the sports field.
We do days like today because teams work together when they have a strong bond of trust. You can only build that bond of trust through shared experiences and really getting to know each other.
I think the day overall has probably been our best ever conference. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. We've been blessed by the weather. Everybody's been completely and utterly engaged, enjoyed it. It's just a real great atmosphere amongst all of the Aico Homelink colleagues, and I can't wait to do it again next year.
It was great to take a look back at our UK conference at Crewe Hall. It really was a great and just fun day. All of the teams had so much fun, and we really are a lot closer after it. Now we're going to take a look at our City and Guilds advert.
Next up, we have our EDA module. We are joined by Tracy Hewitt, Education and Training Consultant for the Electrical Distributors Association. Tracy speaks to Marketing Manager Alex Garmston about her role in the EDA and the different modules the EDA covers. Vessey, Head of Marketing and Communications at the EDA, discusses the two of the most popular modules and speaks to some people who have completed them.
Hello, Tracy.
Hi, Alex.
nice to welcome you to Aico TV.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So I'm joined with Tracy Hewitt from the EDA. Tracy, if you could just introduce yourself and tell me what you do.
Okay, so I'm part of the EDA. I'm their education and training consultant. I actually joined them in November, so through the pandemic. And my responsibility is to support the growth of education and training out to members and affiliates. So making sure that there's plenty of training available, sourcing those opportunities, making the most of government funding, incentives, making sure everybody's aware of it.
Okay, and the EDA have a number of training modules. How many do they have?
They do. So part of the training are the modules, and those modules are there to support product knowledge in the whole. There are 12 of them. 12.
Okay, is there any in particular that are more popular?
Principles of Electricity is probably seen as the starting point for modules, and it's kind of an introduction module to electricity and the theory behind it and how some of the laws are worked out, what's covered across some of the other modules. And that's been our most popular, so over 700 learners, if we call them learners, have taken that module.
Okay, and have you got people that have completed all 12 modules? Can you do that?
You can complete all 12 modules. It's quite a commitment, and they're few and far between, the number of people that do that. So we always celebrate the people that have done 12 modules. So we've had 6 of those that have completed all 12 modules, and 2 of them have completed all 12 modules at distinction.
Brilliant. And then when it comes to the end of the module, is there a test, an assessment?
There's an end of module assessment. We call it the EMA, and they are questions that are set by or approved by City and Guilds. It's what's called an open book assessment. So although you have to answer the questions in your own words, you can refer back to your workbook or use information from colleagues that you've picked up or further research that you've done. And as a result of that EMA, you'll get graded either fail if you haven't answered enough of the questions, pass, credit or distinction.
Each module takes about 10 weeks, is that right?
Each module's allocated 10 weeks, 40 hours. So yeah, that's 120 weeks. A long time. So with each module, is there sort of a test at the end? There is. The modules are all City and Guild accredited. So they are proper qualifications, and you're awarded by City and Guilds. And the test happens towards the end of that 10 weeks. So you request the test when you think you're ready to do it. It's quite a nice process.
Okay.
You can have the workbook still available, still with you when you answer the questions. So there shouldn't be a reason to fail. Unfortunately, some people do.
Oh, okay. That's unfortunate. And so far to date, how many people have you had complete the modules?
So we have sold 3,376 modules have been ordered so far to date. And of those, we've had 1,826 people receiving distinctions.
That's a good percentage then.
It's a good percentage, yeah. And the modules, they're not just there for the wholesalers, they're not just there for their staff to fully understand the products that are being sold and the information behind the products to add that added value. What we're finding more and more is that our affiliate organisations, the manufacturers, are making use of them, as you guys are here at Aico, but they are making use of them because it helps them to talk the same language as the wholesalers that they're selling to.
No, brilliant. And obviously you have to be a member of the EDA to take up the training modules, isn't that right?
You can take up the training modules without being a member, but they do cost you more.
Right, okay.
So it's a discounted price for EDA members.
Okay. And is there any modules in particular you would like, anyone watching to look at? Do you have a favourite?
All of the modules are great, but given the push at the moment around sustainability, and certainly the increase in the number of electric cars and charging points, we would say, don't forget, we have a module on renewables.
Renewables, okay.
Absolutely.
Links in well to the kind of Construct Zero that obviously Anne was talking about as well.
It does.
Greener, more sustainable.
And it's one of those products that's, or the renewable products, are very much in focus at the moment. And if staff haven't been fully trained on them and can't advise the customer at the other end, then the renewables module is the one that you need to choose.
So Tracy, when it comes to finding out more about the modules, people can go on the EDA website to find out about these?
So on the website, there is a downloadable course directory that gives a synopsis of what's covered in each of the modules. It also identifies the price and the process for ordering. So everything that you need to know is in that course directory.
Okay, brilliant. And I'm sure from people that know, but the modules are CPD certified, is that right?
They are. So they are City and Guilds accredited, as well as being CPD approved as well. So what that means is for your continuing professional development, they have 40 hours of study attached to them, and you can request a CPD certificate to prove that you've done so many hours within that academic year.
Perfect. Well, brilliant. Thank you for that, Tracy. We're going to be joined by some of our apprentices later. We'll have the pleasure of being interviewed by yourself, and they can explain more about the sort of modules they've undertaken. And thank you for talking to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Welcome back. My name's Anne from the Electrical Distributors Association, and we're now going to be talking about two of our most popular modules, lighting and introduction and lighting systems and controls. We're going to be hearing from some of the people who've studied the modules, and we're also going to be hearing from Alan Reynolds, CEO of Founder UK. Alan was instrumental in leading the working group of product experts who pooled their knowledge to deliver these training modules.
Good morning, everybody, and we're joined today by a very special guest, Alan Reynolds, CEO of the Founder UK buying group. And Alan has got a long history with these modules, a very impressive history, and we're going to be talking to him about that very shortly. So just say good morning, Alan, if you would.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Anne. Morning, Tracy. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. And we're joined by my colleague, Tracy Hewitt. Tracy, would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Tracy Hewitt. I work at the EDA as Education and Training Consultant and support the delivery and the review of the modules.
So I think we've got a number of questions for you today, Alan, which I think Tracy is going to kick off with. So we look forward to hearing more. And I think before we even start, I think you've got some very impressive certificates on that wall up there, haven't you? That are just out of view.
I'm very proud of my award for contribution for learning and development, and very proud of my module.
I think you need a bigger wall. We need a bigger wall or a bigger camera.
Something like that. I've got all the 12 module certificates on another cabinet.
Absolutely brilliant. What a leader. What a leader. Right, Tracy, the ball's in your court.
Great. So, Alan, thank you for joining us. And we're talking specifically about the two lighting modules, lighting introduction and lighting systems and design. So what was the concept behind the modules? How did it all start and what was the idea behind them?
Well, I think when we looked at, I think there was 12 product modules that, that the EDA did, and we looked at who could affiliate the different product groups and who maybe was a good fit for the certain product groups that we were looking at. And lighting, with my background of working at GE, and I'm LIF qualified in design, and I used to be an installer, lighting seemed to fall towards me as being the right candidate. What was interesting with the lighting, though, is that it was the only sector that, because it's such a large sector and it's changed a lot over the last few years because of LED, legislation, technology, etc., that we split into two modules. So we did an introduction to lighting, which was really around the more basic information around colours, colour rendering, etc., etc. But then because it is more advanced and we talk about sensors and controls, etc., we had the second module for the people that wanted to go on and to learn even further. And my hope was that out of the people that maybe started on the introduction, moved to the advanced, maybe some of them would even go on to do the LIA Lighting Design Certificate, which for me is a great career opportunity for people coming into the industry. It just shows that you can progress through. So that was the concept. It really was to give people the base information in the lighting, look at moving on to the more advanced products, and maybe if they wanted, they could go on to further things.
Brilliant, thank you. So you didn't do this on your own. So how did you gather and harness all those product experts that you needed?
That's a good question, and that's a challenge. That was a challenge as well. I think the first thing that we needed to do was make sure that we involved our affiliate suppliers to the EDA. Okay, they're affiliate suppliers to the EDA for a reason, and I think that we have to make sure that we're showing there's a value for them in being an affiliate to the EDA. So the key point was, let's look at the affiliate suppliers. The next thing was, I wanted to make sure that we didn't just end up with the large suppliers. So, you know, there had to be a blend of affiliate supplier, large, medium, and small. And then we also had to think about the products, because lighting is massive and it's very difficult for one manufacturer to actually have a product range that covers the whole spectrum of lighting. And many of them specialize in certain areas. It may be street lighting or commercial or residential, etc. So we had to make sure that we had a broad range of affiliate suppliers to cover the product sectors. And then, of course, we needed people that understood control, people that understood sensors, because we're now moving into, in the lighting sector, a lot more is about control and smart technology. One of the big challenges, I will say at this point, for any of the affiliate suppliers that look at training wholesalers, is try and think of your audience, okay? You're sitting in a room with some very clever technical people. I'm a farmer's boy, okay? So I'm not the brightest, but you have to think of your audience. And I had to keep saying to the guys, bring it back, bring it back. Think about the people that are doing these modules. You're talking real high-tech stuff about harmonics and all of these types of things. And we're talking about people that might have only just come into the industry that are working on a trade counter, and we need to make sure that these modules are pitched at the right level. That was a challenge for me, probably the biggest challenge that I had in affiliating the group. Okay.
Brilliant, thank you. So you've touched a little bit there around, you know, who you use to support that, but exactly what was the breadth of those people's backgrounds that came onto that work?
Very, very broad background. You had some technical specialists, you know, I mean, people that you'd probably call a technical director within a lighting manufacturer. You had people that had come from the product management sector, people that had come from maybe a more sales-led background. So the width of experience was, pretty great. There were some super intelligent guys in there, I have to say, that were way above my level. But no, the great thing was that we ended up with a good blend. And, without repeating myself, my job was to just try to make sure that we took the best from those people and made sure that the modules were fit for the audience. That was the key bit. But we had people from all different dynamics, really, from the lighting fraternity.
Brilliant. So are they fit for what you envisaged?
I'd hope so, as I chair the committee. If they're not, then I'm to blame, I guess. I think they are. I mean, I think they're very good. I think that we pitched them about right. When I look back at the introduction to lighting, it walks people through the old legacy lamps. So, somebody coming in can understand about the old legacy traditional lamps like tungsten and halogen lamps and fluorescent. It talks about the different colors and how those colours can be used to make the environment that they're being installed more appealing, whether it be like warmer colours or cooler colours based on the application. So I think that they hit the spot really, and I think that again comes back to the combination of the people in the room and then thinking of the audience. I really think they were the reason they were successful.
Brilliant, thanks, Alan. And from a personal level, I did the lighting introduction, and it unravelled a whole mystery to me. I didn't understand what those numbers and letters on the side of a lamp package were until I'd done that module. I now sound very knowledgeable when I purchase. So thank you for that, Alan. I've done that module myself, and I have to say it was a mystery to me until I did that module. Exactly what those numbers and letters on the side of a lamp package meant. So now when I go in, I look very knowledgeable.
I think on that point, Tracy, if you look back at lighting, probably for like 100 years, nothing really changed dramatically, okay? And then we moved towards compact fluorescence, all about energy saving, etc. And you'll know that people were sending them through the post, etc., etc. And then we moved to LED. And I think the confusion for people was, are they quoting lumens for light? Are they quoting candela? What does the color mean? This, they took out their old tungsten lamp and put in a compact fluorescent, and they said it doesn't look so bright. And I think it got really confusing, and the packaging was maybe a bit misleading in the early stages, but over time, I think that now it's a lot clearer. And the idea of the modules, certainly that introduction, was to get people to understand, what color temperature meant for a lamp, and things like how is the light output measured, and then at say a desk level, how is the light measured there? Okay, so I think it was trying to explain that to help people, through their journey onto hopefully the advanced and maybe even lighting design.
Brilliant. So have you done the modules yourself?
Yes, I have. I have to say they're all on the wall. I've done 12 of them actually. So I think they were launched in July 2018, I think.
That's about right, yeah.
I finished them by February 2019, all 12 of them. I know I did one of them on Boxing Day. That's how sad I am.
I think that must be something of a record, Alan. I think you're turning in 12 in that space of time must be something of a record.
Yeah, and I'll just say there was a reason for that. And as CEO of PALZ, I've been talking to the members a lot about the need to train and educate staff, educate trade counter staff and telephone sales, etc., etc. And I felt that in my role, I wanted to try and almost, I would say, showing an example or leadership or whatever. It was just about saying, look, I've done all of these. And, so what about your guys within your branch network? How many of you got signed up? And I was very passionate that as the industry's changing, and we're seeing new entrants and, you know, internet, etc., we have to think about how the electrical distribution sector moves forward. And for me, you know, yes, digital is here, but it's very much what I call click, click, click. Have you got, what's the price? When can I get it? You don't get that intelligent conversation. Whereas if you look at the branch network, by training the staff to have that intelligent conversation, I think it adds value in the supply chain. So the training of staff was very important to me. And I did the modules really, I mean, I didn't really need to do them. I'm a qualified approved electrician, so I don't really need to do them. But I did them to be able to stand in front of the members of FAJIM and say, look, I've done all of them. I feel this is really important. Hopefully you're going to, you know, get people involved in them as well.
So just kind of to wrap it up, and you've touched on it, but to wrap it up, do you think they benefit the electrical wholesaling sector?
Yeah, I think, you know, I did briefly touch on it just a second ago, but I think if you go back and look at, you know, 20 years ago, it was a different market, okay? The route to market was very defined. It tended to be from the supplier through the wholesaler to the installer. But, you know, we're now seeing new entrants coming into the market. And for me, who's been in it ever since I've left school in contracting, wholesaling and manufacturing, you know, I really feel passionate about this, hope that the industry thrives moving forward. And to do that, I think that we have to look at our value proposition moving forward. And to me, one of the big value propositions is the quality of our staff and the knowledge of our staff. We're very fortunate. We're in a technical market, okay? If you look at the impact on the retail sector and then look at how strong construction is, even through the pandemic, we are very lucky that this market has stayed very strong. And my belief is that's because we are in a technical sector. And I think that we have to really think about the future on how we work with our suppliers and the end installer on understanding the new opportunities that are going to come to us, okay? Yes, digital is here. It's here to stay. We need to have a digital presence. Yes, the branch network is here to stay. But we have to think about the quality of a staff and how we add value in our service proposition. And then the last one, I call these the three pillars. The third pillar is looking at the new opportunities in the new markets. And we're very fortunate that we constantly get new opportunities driven by legislation and driven by technology. And I think that is a real saving, you know, saving grace for us. And just bringing it back to lighting, just to give you an example, you know, we would get installers come onto the trade counter and they'll say, I want a 600 for 600 fit in. What one do you want? I'll give us the cheapest. Okay, that could be a typical conversation. They're not worried. They just want a cheap fit in. We have to try and extend the conversation by asking, where is it going? What's the application? Does it need to be different? Does it need to be color changing? What about smart technology, etc., etc.? It's about opening up the conversation to try and add value to the customer. And then hopefully the distributor will be selling a higher value product at a higher margin, which means his business is more profitable. And the customer will come back because he sees there's a value in talking to somebody that understands what the requirements are. And you don't necessarily get that on an internet platform, which I say is very much can be, have you got, what's the price, when am I going to get it? It's click, click, click. Okay, so that's why I'm passionate about these modules and the training, etc., because I think that gives the industry security moving forward. Okay.
Thank you. And I'm just going to throw one other question in there.
Yeah.
Put you on the spot. So you mentioned, you know, that they were launched in July 2018, and we've just gone through a review which you very kindly supported. What big differences happened between the original workbook and the new version?
I think on lighting, it's probably legislation. Okay, it's always changing. So, you know, the rules around lighting within certain buildings changes. So we need to keep up to date with what's going on there. Technology changes, definitely, and we see, you know, more of a move towards smart home, etc., or smart lighting. You know, let's talk about human-centric lighting. Okay, now that's another big part. So you're talking about people, their work environment, and lighting can make productivity far greater because the environment they work in is much more pleasant because of the controls in that you can put into lighting. And product performance. I think that, you know, when you look at LED and how it's progressed over the last few years, the light output for the amount of power that it uses has improved a great deal. So you're getting a lot more, you know, punch, if you like, from your lighting for less power. And we're all talking about, you know, CO2 reduction, energy reduction, etc. And so that is another big part of it. So in lighting, which is a really fast changing product sector, probably was one of the fastest changing from 2012, I guess, onwards with LED. It's about making sure we're keeping up to pace with legislation, keeping up to pace with technology, and keeping up to pace with the new products that the manufacturers are bringing to the party. Okay, so that's the key differences, I think. We also have to look at the staff, okay, because if you look at this, I mean, I started in electrical wholesaling as a sales rep, and from there, you know, went through to various roles, and I've had a really enjoyable career within the electrical distribution industry. And I think that we have to make sure that we try to attract young talent that are going to replace people like me, but make sure that they've got a career aspiration, and we can show them a path as to go into different things. And that's why, you know, obviously lighting is quite close to me, having worked for GE for 6 years. Lighting's quite close to me, but it's probably one of the product sectors that really can show a clear career path for somebody coming into the industry who wants to get on, can get on, and we have to show them that there is a route to do that. So, you know, when you go back to the modules, come in with no knowledge of lighting, you do the introduction, you understand all the basics, you can then move on to lighting control and the more advanced sector within the EDA modules, but it doesn't have to stop there, because you can then go on, like as I did, you know, you can do the LIA, you can do lighting design, and then you're into, you know, designing schemes, etc. And the value of that person and their personal importance goes up as well. And I think it's really important that we show a career path as well for people coming in, as well as the benefits for their current business around profitability, etc. You know, because they're selling an added value product. So I think the two things really do go hand in hand, you know.
Hello, everybody. My name's Anne. I'm the Marketing and Comms Lead at the Electrical Distributors Association, and we're joined today by Nicole from Lockwells. And I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to hand over to Nicole, and I'd like you to introduce yourself, Nicole. So hi.
Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Nicole Wallace, and I work for Lockwells in Middlewich, Cheshire. I've been here for just over 8 years now, and currently my job title is internal sales and stores. So I deal with goods in, I do trade counter, I take orders over the phone, and I also help as well with the accounts. You know, and then I've just recently, you know, started doing these modules last year, just to give myself a little bit of a boost within my job, really. But yeah, no, I really like it.
I think you're being a bit modest, Nicole, because you just told us you've done 7 of them. Is that right?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm currently on my 7th one.
Wow, that is pretty impressive. That is great. So thank you very much. You sound like you've got a lot on there at Lockwells. And you've got some questions for Nicole, haven't you?
I have, and it's lovely to meet Nicole, because it's really nice to actually meet people that are taking the modules and see the faces behind the names that creep through. So thank you very much. And we're going to concentrate on 2 of those modules today, Nicole. So lighting systems and design, fire and safety and security. So if you could think about those in particular, that would be great. How did you hear about the EDA product knowledge modules?
Well, with the EDA modules, I've heard it going around, you know, verbally within the company, because I know one of our technical guys, I think Chris Moran, might deal with you guys a lot. So I've heard him mention it, and then it was last year, at the beginning of last year, I decided to approach my manager, and I asked if I could start doing some of the books, because I think he's done one or two at the moment as well. So I decided that I would like to start doing them.
That's brilliant, and it's brilliant the fact that you made that approach as well. So, you know, very proactive. Well done. So how engaging did you find the content in lighting systems and design? If we start with that one first.
Yeah, well, for me, I thought it was really good. You know, I was a little bit worried with them at first, you know, because I thought, oh, you know, I didn't know whether I was going to be able to get all the questions right and things like that. But, you know, the books, they're really informative. You know, everything is there for you as long as you read it properly. You know, but everything is there, and they are really good books. I do enjoy doing them.
Did you find them too technical, or were they pitched at the right level?
I would say maybe a couple of them you might have said, oh, I'm a little bit unsure, but once you read it again and, you know, you try and put it into practice with what we're actually doing, it is easy to, you know, understand it. But you do have to, you know, sometimes just take your time with it and read it properly. But yeah, I think the books are really good.
Wonderful. So have they been useful in your role from, you know, at the point at which you started them? Did you find that they were helping support what you do in your everyday role?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say it was straight away, but you know, after some time, you know, when we start dealing with lighting and stuff, because our branch, we can be quite industrial here, so it's not always lighting or fire systems and stuff, but it's great for me because it gives me the confidence of, you know, doing the learning and also having the books to refer back to. It's perfect to have them. So if I'm ever a little bit unsure, I can just go back and look, and it just helps me out that little bit more.
That's
so
brilliant.
It gives me confidence.
Great stuff. So could you give me an example of how that new learning has helped you with a customer?
Yeah, I mean, for one of those, it would be like when I've been helping people pick out, say, lamps that they want. You know, we can say what cap is it, your lumens, the color temperatures. You know, you've got all of those, and then obviously with fire alarms and stuff, you need to know which parts they're going in, and you know, making sure that you've got the right either heat detectors, smoke detectors, you know, CO2s, making sure you've got the right amount in housing. So if anybody's ever come and they're doing like a new build, we know what we need to help them to supply. And then, you know, with lights as well, on dimmer switches, making sure that we get the right one, which could be dimming, like a leading or trailing edge, making sure we ask them those questions, because we've been caught out, you know, a couple of times with that. So, you know, it's a great little reminder for me.
Brilliant stuff. Great. So what would you say to other people to encourage them to study them?
Well, for me, I would say that they should definitely do them. You know, I've really enjoyed doing them. I've not finished completely yet, which is quite nice. I've still got them to go, but it's a boost of confidence with, you know, people on the phone, over the counter, everything like that, because it's a really nice thing when you get asked for something and you know what they want, you know, and you can help somebody and you've got that confidence to do that properly. So for me, I would always recommend to do them.
Brilliant, that's great. So you touched there just very briefly and very quickly that you still have a few more to do. So are you planning on finishing the full 12?
I am, yes, definitely.
You good girl, that's a very elite club.
Yeah,
I definitely
want to finish them all.
Good for you, brilliant. Hello everybody, my name's Anne. I'm the Head of Marketing and Comms at the Electrical Distributors Association, And we're joined today by a special guest. This is Sean Wilkinson, who is part of the Edmondson's Group. And Sean, I've just given away your name, but you are going to introduce yourself.
I am, yeah. Thank you for giving me a head start. Sean Wilkinson. I'm part of the Edmondson's Group. I work in one of the branches in the Leeds City Centre. And my role currently is one of the external sales reps at the branch.
And what does that mean every day? What do you do?
So my overall role is interacting with customers, to put it in the most simplest terms, bringing business into the branch. You obviously have an internal sales team, and my role is to feed business into those guys who hopefully convert that into business.
Brilliant. So you really need to know what you're talking about.
Oh yes, absolutely. If I'm out on the road, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you have done, I don't think I'm giving too much away, you've done 10 of the 12 EDA product knowledge modules, which is a fantastic track record, I have to say. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Your head is full of electrotechnical product knowledge. And I'm also joined by Tracey, my colleague from the EDA. Tracey, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Tracy Hewitt. I'm part of the EDA team, looking after education and training. So the modules fall into part of that remit. So making sure that they're working in the way they should work and that they're as up to date as they can possibly be. So Sean, we're talking specifically about 2 of these modules today. So we're looking at lighting introduction and lighting systems and design, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So how did you hear about the EDA product knowledge modules?
So they go hand in hand with my role. So when I first started with the Edmondson's Group, my role was a graduate sales manager. I was one of the graduate schemes. From a business perspective, you work through the business, kind of from a warehouse onto trade counter, into the sales team, and where I am now, external sales rep. But what goes hand in hand with that is, as you've touched on, the EDA work modules. And that's where I kind of first got introduced to them. This is what was part of my role and something that I needed to complete to obviously be successful.
Brilliant, that's great. So how engaging was the content?
I quite enjoyed it. I found it quite engaging. My personal background did not come from the electrical industry, so I had no kind of prior knowledge. I've worked in sales before in other kind of sectors, but nothing to do with electrical. If you ask my family and friends, I'm probably not deemed as the most practical person in the world. So in terms of the content, very engaging, very straightforward for someone who doesn't have a lot of kind of background knowledge to kind of support that. So it was relatively easy for me to kind of pick up quite quickly. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that the language was pitched at the right level? It wasn't too technical, but then it also was technical enough?
Yeah, you're right. A bit of both. It was quite technical in kind of areas, but at the same time, you guys will know yourself, you obviously have your jargon busters. So for certain like words or terms or phrases, you had those that could kind of convert it into English, so we could actually understand. But it was good in both senses. So it was understandable, but also you knew what the technical terms were. So when you were put into kind of a work environment, you could recognise those in everyday conversation.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, so did they start helping you in your role straight away? So as you were working through them, did it have an impact on what you were doing?
Not maybe straight away. As I touched on, we kind of started in the warehouse, kind of done 6 months to kind of earn my stripes, as it were, get used to the industry. It was more so when I progressed to the trade counter in kind of the sales office, and you start to have those daily conversations with customers in particular, is when it really kind of gave me the foundation. As I say, I didn't have a great background in kind of the electrical industry as a whole, so those kind of basics really set me up to then learn off my peers in the sales office as well as customers. Most customers are quite open, and if you have a conversation with them, will say, yeah, Sean, it's this or it's that, and you kind of learn from that. But I feel as though if I didn't have the base knowledge, then I probably would have struggled to host those conversations or be a part of those conversations. So yeah, I thought it really gave me the platform when I started into integrating with customers.
Brilliant. So can you give us an example of how that knowledge, specifically around lighting, has supported you when dealing with customers?
There's a few, couple of the more basic ones. So there was one of my customers actually had a job in a prison of all places where he was replacing various bits of lighting. and it's obviously in the module, but it's explained you get different IP ratings and IK ratings depending on the type of fitting and suitability, etc., etc. And he'd asked me for an IP rated fitting, which is waterproof, watertight. It's fine, but I kind of, from the module, I kind of had it in the back of my head, well, prisons normally go with the IK rating. They need to be tamper-proof for obvious reasons. And I kind of suggested to him, are you sure it's IP you want? Do you not want the IK? Albeit they can be a bit more expensive sometimes. You know, the prison will probably be looking for that. And long story short, when he went away and checked that with the end user, it was the IK he needed. So little things like that, that's a really basic kind of example. But without the prior knowledge of the module, I wouldn't have been in a position to ask that question of the customer. And you know, he may have installed the wrong fitting or whatever. So it's, yeah, certainly in that kind of situation, it supported me.
Yeah, I mean, that's a brilliant example, because actually what you've done is saved him money in the long term, because he would have ended up buying the wrong product.
Exactly, installing the wrong product and having to come back to swap it, and yeah, exactly. So it's time and labour that saved him. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. So what would you say to other people to encourage them to study these modules?
Certainly if you're in a position as that I was, where you had no prior knowledge, or maybe you'd been in the industry and then dropped out of the industry for a period of time, so you want a kind of a refresher, really do them. To put it in its simplest terms, it's a really good basis to kind of build your knowledge, or like I say, refresh your knowledge, for you to have a platform to then kick on to, you know, whatever your role is, whatever you're aspiring to do, and then progress through the industry. So my advice would be, yeah, go for it.
Go for it. Lovely. So you've done 10. What next?
10. Well, I think that's everything. As far as I'm aware, I stand to be corrected. It's part of my course. It was 10 that I was told to do. I know there is 12 modules, but I was only required to do the 10. So yeah, as far as I'm aware, I'm complete.
It's a select club, Sean, of people who have done 12. You could push yourself into it, you know.
Well, this is it. I know the option is there. As we just touched on, one of the modules you guys were looking at, I've obviously missed out on. So maybe I should put some inquiries into to get caught up on that one.
Yeah, renewables is a big topic at the moment. Everyone's it seems to be the, you know, reducing emissions and green. The green agenda is on everyone's lips. So it might be renewables comes into your world. It does depend on what your customers are asking for, though, as well, doesn't it?
This is it. Yeah, every branch is tailored to kind of a specific market. You know, you get, you know, branches on the coast do a lot of kind of waterproof kind of fittings and things like that. And various markets and sectors. So yeah, it's very kind of individual to each branch. But yeah, renewables across the board is pretty much, it's going to affect everybody sooner rather than later.
Yeah, get in early is what I would say.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
It was great to hear from Tracy and Anne about the EDA modules. The final instalment will be in our next episode. Now for our Audio Link Plus advert.
So in our final segment, we're joined by PALZ UK. Jane Pritchard, our community liaison, is joined by Liz Holdsworth, Clive Rogers and Patricia Middleton, and they discuss the charity and how it's grown throughout the UK. Let's have a look how they got on.
Hi, I'm Jane Pritchard, community liaison at Aico. I'm joined today with some guests from PALZ UK. They're a charity, a dementia charity, and they're trying to raise awareness of the great work that they do. So delighted to have you all here today. So Liz, nice for you to join us today. We were introduced a while ago, weren't we? It's probably prior to COVID.
Yeah, it is quite some time ago.
Yeah, so we were, it was through the Shropshire Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And Aico had sponsored their charity networking group.
Yeah.
And of course you were part of
Which has been
that.
great, and we're very grateful.
Yeah, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the charity and what you do.
Well, I think probably best way to describe it is to think that if you were watching this today and you'd developed symptoms of dementia and you got a diagnosis of what was causing this, it could be Alzheimer's, it could be Lewy body dementia, it could be whatever, where would you go to get mental stimulation and social stimulation? And the answer is PALZ. And PALZ stands for Professionals with Alzheimer's or Dementia from Other Causes. It's not UK idea. It was started in Australia by a wonderful woman there whose husband got Alzheimer's. He'd been a surgeon, and she thought, what is going to keep John's brain active in a work-type environment with people of a similar background? And they set up, in 2017, they set up PALZ. And I thought, wow, this is an amazing thing that we don't have in UK. So we began it here, and it started in 2018. And the format of it is that there are talks by high-quality speakers on a regular basis, so that you come to the talk, but you come early, you have coffee and talk to other people who are coming. You have the talk with a break in the middle, then the talk goes on, and afterwards there's socialising. And the focus of PALZ is who you are, not what you have. Because just because you have dementia, you haven't lost your brain. So we started in Shropshire. We have meetings. We use the conference centre on the site of the Royal Shrewsbury Hospital because it's central to the county. And there's no cost to people coming. There's no application forms or whatever. Some people may think, oh, professional. No, it's people who are bright, interested people who want to go on living the sort of life that they're used to living because they're bright people. And we have mainly, I have to say, it's mainly male participants, one or two ladies. Participants come with their supporters. So the supporters, mainly wives, could be friend, could be family member. All are welcome, and all are on the same journey. So I'd very much like to introduce you now to Clive. Clive Rogers. Clive, he's a bit of a star, really. Well, you are. You were, I think, you were at the very first meeting we had in 2018. But Clive has many hats because he also gave us a fantastic talk on beekeeping, best talk I've ever heard on bees. And you're also on the committee for the Shropshire group. And maybe, Clive, could you sort of give us an indication of what it means to you as someone with dementia coming to the group?
Yeah, well, I was diagnosed some 5 years ago with mixed dementia, and it comes as a kick in the guts when you're first diagnosed. Yeah. It's frightening, you don't know where to turn. Yeah. Through the first 12 months, it was a minefield trying to find any help or anything going on. We'd found one or two groups, but those groups were always talking nothing but dementia. And they tended to be for the people with dementia and not your carers, loved ones, wives, etc. We then found PALZ, and the wonderful Liz here. The time she gives is amazing. But the thing I like about PALZ is we have really interesting talks. They're stimulating. It's not about the dementia. There talks about all sorts of things, like we had a talk about somebody who worked in the Antarctic, somebody who'd been to South America. Wonderful talks that are really stimulating.
We had medicine in war zones.
We did,
that was a good one, wasn't
medicine
it?
In war zones. And the thing I like about it is those talks are not concentrating on the dementia. They're taking you away from that. And my wife comes along, she's my carer, and it's great that we can all be involved. And afterwards we have cups of tea and a chat, and then we can talk about our dementia. And yes. Barbara, my wife, met probably her best friend now, who's also a carer for her husband. Yeah. Yeah. And it supports them as well.
So you've referred to Barbara as your carer, as your supporter, and Pat you've been involved, haven't you, from
Yes.
very early on, as a support, as a carer?
Yes, I hate to
for Tony.
use that word carer.
Yes, me too.
Because I'm Tony's wife, and I have been that for 54 years.
Yeah.
You know, so I've always cared for him and the children, and he's cared for me.
Yeah.
It's slightly one-sided now, but he's still, well, I'm his wife, you know, not his carer. Tony was diagnosed 4 years ago with Alzheimer's, and the memory team came out and they were very helpful and very, very good, and he was given medication. And they gave me a lot of leaflets about groups that we could join. And we did try one or two, but Tony didn't want to go and sing songs all day. He went to one group and he came out with a glove puppet that he'd made, a sock puppet that he'd made. And that really upset me. And he'd never done that through his life. He'd had a professional life, and he still was a professional person. He still had a brain.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing, Liz, when we first joined, we joined just after Clive, and you were trying to get some funding. I think, no, you were trying to get charitable status, I think.
Yes.
And you asked us to write down on a post-it note what PALZ meant to us. And my response was that PALZ recognised that Tony had a brain. He might not have a good memory, but he had a brain. And it's the first time we joined anything where they, you know, that had been acknowledged. And we love going. We do talk about it. Tony's memory is very poor now, so the next day he might not remember. But while we're there, we have a good time, and we're meeting like-minded people. That I know you've said we don't talk about, it's not the be-all and end-all, but it is an important part of it. The support that you get from other carers, other partners that are going through exactly the same things, all the highs and the lows that go with
because
it.
I think unless you're on the same journey in life, you never
Absolutely.
entirely understand, do you?
You find
So
lots, your
yeah.
family and
Yeah.
your friends are all there
Yes.
caring
Yes.
and concerned,
Yeah.
but they have sympathy, but they don't have empathy. And
no.
that's what
Yes.
that's what you get from
And
being in a
you've
group like
reminded
we
me of
have.
that, because I haven't actually said to Jane that although we started in Shropshire, good old Shropshire, best county in England, we applied to be a UK-wide charity.
Yeah.
July the 1st, 2020, not a great time, you'll remember
No.
the pandemic. And we were told it could take 20 weeks. 8 days later, we had an email saying we were now UK-wide registered, which was wonderful,
Fantastic,
good news,
yeah.
and not so good news. We could hardly say set up groups. But now we feel we are in a position to spread it across the UK.
Yes.
Because we know that there will be people today who'll get that damning diagnosis, which will, like Clive says, rock your life really. And they won't have a PALZ group. And what we're really anxious is to find people in different parts of the country who would be prepared to set up groups. And we have on the website a pack, startup pack. We would go and see people, we would pay for them to come to see our group here, we would give some financial support. So we're all geared to spread it across the UK so that people in different parts of the country can get the benefits that people have here.
Yeah. Can I just add as well, groups like PALZ, our group, it's run by people who really understand the problem, who've been there, have got that, like Clive. Professionals are wonderful people and they know so much, but they don't really know what it's like. So for other people to set up a group with the same problems that we've all got would be wonderful. If there were groups all across the country, everybody would appreciate it, because you're meeting like-minded people. That's the thing.
I think the work that you do is absolutely amazing. Just hearing your stories as well is just
well, it's a great privilege. I was a solicitor, and I a lot of my clients had dementia, so I think the people who will set up groups are people who will have been touched by dementia personally, or as I was professionally. And, you know, it's a great privilege to be able to do it, really.
Yeah.
But we do want to spread it across the UK.
Well,
and thank
we'll
you.
help. Yeah.
Thank you to Aico. I can't thank. I'm so amazed by Aico letting us be, you know, members of the Chamber of Commerce, doing this for us. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Well, we'll
on
do
behalf of
what
all
we
of us.
can to help promote, because I mean, you know, it is, like I said, it's fantastic work what you do, and you know, whatever we can do to help promote it.
Yeah,
then,
thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It was great to be joined by PALZ UK. They really are a fantastic charity, so please check them out. Now we're going to go to Luke, who's going to tell you all about this week's FAQ.
Next up, we have an FAQ from Kieran Smith. Where do I fit a heat alarm?
Heat alarms can be positioned in kitchens or garages as centrally as possible, not on walls, and at least a metre away from any sinks or heat appliances such as ovens.
Big thanks to Kieran, that was really informative. Thanks for watching this episode of Aico TV. Please like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube. We're also on the following social media platforms, which are
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn and TikTok.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Bye-bye for now.